So Dr. Raymond Cloyd just spoke to the master gardeners about plant-derived essential oils, and we were able to pull them aside. So I would like you to, if you could, kind of condense your beautiful talk down to about 5 minutes, if you don't mind. Let's first talk about what are essential oils, plant-derived essential oils.
Well, plant-derived essential oils are like botanicals. They're derived from plants. They're highly volatile. They're actually from the secondary metabolites that plants produce for defense against whether it be herbivores like insects or mites or other plant pathogens. And so what we're doing is exploiting that by putting them in solvents or steam distillation to actually get out these large monoterpenoid, sesquiterpenoid compounds, and maybe use them in insecticides or miticides.
And so they can come from the leaves, the seeds, all sorts of parts from the plant, is that correct?
Mostly it's the leaves.
Okay.
The seeds you get neem oil, but mostly it's the leaves.
Okay.
And some, but you can get stems, but it's mostly the leaves that they're processing.
All right, so when we talk about this, when we go and find an insecticide, these tend to be more the natural products. Am I using that word correctly?
Well, that is true. They're natural, botanical, derived from the plant, yes.
Okay, and so is there any regulation to those products, or tell us a little bit about their efficacy?
Well, in our studies, we find very low efficacy against various insects, aphids, thrips, mealybugs, whiteflies. We have done some work with mites, where some of them may work, like rosemary oil. But mostly in our studies, we have found to have very poor effectiveness or lack of efficacy against most of the insects we've tested. And these are insects that are on the labels of these products too.
Right. And so tell us a little bit, why is it such a good sell, right? I mean, we hear that they are going to deter these pests. What are some of the ways that they claim they will deter these pests?
Well, mostly they're repellents.
Okay.
So from a standpoint of, they have we find very little contact activity. But again, even that's questionable. The repellency against certain insects like mosquitoes is one, biting midges and flies. But when you're trying to control aphids or whiteflies or thrips in grass, you need something that's going to kill them, not repel them away.
Right. So I know some people will, claim that these really work well, and they may have had an experience where they did. It seems like there's a lot of variability in these products. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Well, there is variability in its consistency. As I mentioned in the talk, it depends on the time of year the plant parts are harvested, depends on some abiotic or biotic stress factors of these plants, because these plants are producing secondary metabolites when they're under attack. But when they're drought stressed, they're only going into we call growth maintenance mode. So they produce fewer plant secondary metabolites. So that way you're not getting the adequate number when you're doing the harvesting or the processing.
So the actual strength of these when they're extracted might vary a little bit?
The composition can vary dramatically, very dramatically. I know that's not quantitative, but again, it depends on the time of year they're harvested, any stress factors that are under the production practices, and even the formulation.
Right. And speaking of that, when you look at the label, it seems like there's usually a combination of different cloves and cinnamon oils. Why is it a combination of things like that? Well,
that's a good question. We're trying to decipher it. I mean, one of the publications that I've read is that they are synergistic with each other, but I mean, there's lack of data demonstrating that. So it's really a question we've been not being able to answer. Why are you putting 5 different oils in there when maybe you can put 1? Are they all synergizing each other? There's lack of data on that.
Yeah, and I know anytime you buy any sort of pesticides, I'm always looking at the active ingredient versus the inert ingredient and the percentage of those. And it seems like these have a fairly low percentage of active ingredient. Is there not much need for that, or what are you really buying?
That is true. That is true, Casey. They have a low concentration. You're mostly buying water or other inerts, and that's another factor. Why this concentration of rosemary oil or whatever? And again, there just is such a minimal or lack of data to substantiate why these products are formulated like they are.
Right, and I think one of the selling factors is that people tend to think they're natural, so they're okay for humans, they're okay for our pets, okay for beneficial insects even. I mean, is natural mean safe?
No, absolutely not. Some of the most toxic compounds we have are derived from plants because they're defending themselves. But the studies are out that show that some plant-derived essential oils can cause irritation of the skin. One study showed that They might repel mosquitoes, but they'll attract another biting midge. And people vary. Unfortunately, like everything, it's a lot of marketing, promotion, advertising to get people to try these products.
All right. Well, we appreciate your information that you shared with so many master gardeners all around, international exposure here, and we appreciate the research that you're doing on this as well.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.